So Zion Williamson did a sit-down interview with Malika Andrews, and in it he got decently personal about him missing time in his third year. Firstly, I do believe Zion loves the game of basketball. He doesn't give off the energy that other disappointing players like Ben Simmons give off, and he's shown to me that he does care. He's just one of those types of players that is particularly injury prone. With that being said, I do think some criticism levied against him is justifiable because he hasn't always shown that love, and it has come off at times that he's taken that love for granted. Now, one person who had to get their 2 cents in on this, because of course he did, was Stephen A. Smith, where he said, "I say this respectfully to Zion Williamson," and then proceeded not to say anything respectful to him. Now, the stuff Stephen A. Smith said wasn't entirely wrong, but when you build your career off of being a clown that thrives from attention, even stuff that some might class in the gray area is going to get that attention that you so desperately desire. And I also can't forget to mention to keep in mind that Stephen A. Smith is an NBA analyst, okay? He's not supposed to take this low road where he, constantly makes these jokes and, kind of jarring comments about players. He's meant to be kind of more constructive and, analyze the situations more properly. That's where a lot of the problems come in, because it's not like a regular fan, making fun of Zion for being fat. It's a guy who's supposed to be constructive saying he ate a whole city, which is ridiculous.
You even had rumors, and literally, I'm here thinking it was a joke, and somebody told me to go on the air and point out how he got busted hiding food under his bed. This is the kind of stuff that was happening.
That led to probably the funniest thing so far this NBA season, as the New Orleans Pelicans social media account began clowning on Stephen A.
This man was a bona fide scrub. He can't play. No disrespect whatsoever, but I'm sorry to tell everybody the truth. The man cannot play the game of basketball. He has small hands. He can't catch the ball. He's got bad feet. He can't really move, even though he's mobile. Doesn't really know what he's doing. Doesn't have a post move that he puts to memory that he can do 2 times in a row. He has no game whatsoever, plays no defense, doesn't have the heart, the passion, or anything that comes with it.
This is the greatest thing to come out of New Orleans since Andrew Jackson beat up the British for no reason. Naturally, Stephen A. Smith responded in the most corny way possible. "You ask for this." Like it's 2017 and he's about to drop a diss track.
Pelicans. First of all, I want to say nothing about what I'm about to say is really directed at the players. Trey Murphy, Sadiq Bey, Zion Williamson. It's got nothing to do with y'all. It certainly has nothing to do with the great Joe Dumars. The only good thing they've done in recent memory, as far as I'm concerned, was hiring that man.
Apart from being an NBA Hall of Famer, what has Joe Dumars done so far for New Orleans that's good? Because the only thing I can remember him doing is this just flat-out awful trade.
Whatever the media department is, social media department, this is directed at y'all. First of all, get your facts straight. 1.5 points, Winston-Salem State, it was actually less than that. I cracked my kneecap in half. I never played, okay? But I got a basketball scholarship that paid for my education. I'll go back to that later. When we sit up there and we talk about these old videos and they try to troll me, I mean, you didn't see me hanging with straight shooter. I mean, the lethal shooter himself. Did you show what I was doing when I shot the basketball then? You're going to just bring up an air ball, a bunch of air balls, by the way, that I shot with James Harden years ago in a shirt and tie, instead of pointing out, all the jump shots that I've made in recent memory. We can forget that as well. Because you know what? I'm 58 years old, and I'm not trying to play, but I know what I can do. And I know what I've done. Here's the thing that really, really annoys me about the Pelicans. We heighten our level of sensitivity because I pointed out something about the star on your team and the franchise.
You got people that are alcoholics. You got people that are drug addicts and stuff like that. What was Zion's problem? Food.
Buddy, you're meant to be the premier sports analyst in the world, and your analysis was talking about how much food Zion was eating. That's not just saying something, logical about it. It's just stupid.
You want to use that as an opportunity to get at me. Very, very bad mistake on your part, because as a franchise, you don't have the credentials. You just don't. But before I even get into that, let me say this, and I want to say this because it's very, very important to the American people that you're watching. You left out a couple of other things. You saw me boxing with a rotator cuff over a decade ago. I looked like trash. You saw me throwing out the first pitch. That was a choke job on my part. Definitely a choke job, all right? You also showed that video. Did you notice that nothing's been deleted? You could scrape that stuff off of Google and stuff like that. Do you notice that No effort has been made because I own what I do, and I own what I can't do, and I own what I don't do. And that's the difference between me and y'all. You left something out. And you know what you left out? You left out the fact that I was in the 4th grade and I got left back because I had a 1st grade reading level. I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care. And here I am on national television after graduating from an HBCU, going up against Hall of Famers all the time who play professional sports, elite journalists in this business, and me coming from an HBCU and still doing what I'm doing.
This man is beefing with a literal NBA franchise, and he's bringing up the fact that he couldn't read as a kid. I don't know what this is supposed to prove. Like, yeah, Stephen A., you've come from adversity, you've come from behind, you're a real hero, a real inspiration to the future generations. That's why you're saying you're gonna swing on LeBron. You're a top-tier sports journalist. That's why you get basic things wrong, like saying Wilt Chamberlain was 100 feet taller than everyone he was playing against. Like you're not a hero here. What are you doing?
I don't know if you noticed this or not, but come April, First Take will have been #1 for 14 straight years. 14 straight years. In other words, we win. And on a personal level, did you remember, did you bring up how, I was in bad shape? Did you see that nasty video of me skinny with a pot belly, about 208 pounds, with a cholesterol level over 300, with body fat hovering around 30%? That is not how I look now. That is not how I feel now. I'm 58 years of age, feeling like I'm going on 30. I'm in the best health in my life. Hell, I might even take off a shirt for the scene on the soap operas. That's how good I'm looking. That's how good I'm feeling. That's my life. And at the age of 58, I'm ascending. I'm moving up, okay?
I have zero clue what he means by he's ascending because, man, Stephen A's credibility peaked about 15 years ago and his ability as a journalist peaked about 15 years ago, but maybe he's just a higher being from another realm and he's ascending, he's going to another level. Maybe he's about to start his professional career because of how good of health he's in. He's going to go back to college and, double his scoring output, get 3 points per game nowadays.
In other words, I'm sort of like the American dream. Poor, desolate, struggling, starving. Through the grace of God, the most wonderful mother on the planet, and an individual that stepped up and worked my ass off, I'm at the top of the heap in this profession.
Unlike some people in this industry, Stephen A. actually did come from poverty, and that is something that, he can brag about. I think that's fine. That's acceptable, that he pulled himself up by the bootstraps and, led himself out of that situation. But okay, what's bro's going off on a whole side tangent here, talking about how he's from the hood. Like, buddy, you're arguing with an NBA franchise that was clowning on you for a stupid take, and you're just giving them more ammunition for the future.
And getting paid for it, by the way. And by the way, my popularity is more than anybody you got on your team outside of Zion Williamson.
Being famous does not equal popularity, Stephen A. You have one of the worst reputations out of anyone in sports journalism today.
Again, not throwing any shade on the players, just giving you facts. Why am I bringing all of these things up, New Orleans Pelicans? Because you can't about you. We are approaching the tail end of the season. We are in the month of March. Nearly 65 games have been played, and you're still searching for your 20th victory. Y'all are horrible. You've been horrible. Not the city with those wonderful fans, not the city with those wonderful restaurants, not the city with those wonderful people, just the organization that refuses to represent them the way that they should be represented.
Okay, Stephen A. isn't actually that wrong here. Yes, New Orleans is a bad organization. They aren't very good. Big shocker there. Slight problem, though, with what Stephen A. is saying. He said at the start, I'm specifically talking to the Pelicans' social media accounts management. And now he's just going against the whole organization itself. So that great respect to Joe Dumars, yeah, that's actually out the window. It lasted approximately 36 seconds.
Because y'all have been trash. That is the reality of the situation. Where am I getting this from? Allow me to count the ways. You got your research, I got mine. Worth about $3.55 billion right now. That ranks 29th out of 30 teams in the NBA. The only team valued to be less than y'all, at least according to Forbes magazine, is the Memphis Grizzlies, okay? That's number one. Let's go to your stuff on the basketball court. This is your 24th year in the NBA. You used to be the Hornets. Now you're the Pelicans. That's 2 nicknames. That's how many playoff series victories you have in your career in the National Basketball Association. 2 in 24 years. Damn. I'm not finished. Regular season ranks 23rd of 30 NBA teams since 2002, 2003. In the month of February, not March, not April, in the month of February, just this past month, you clinched your 15th losing season in 24 years. In 24 years, you've had one season of winning 50 or more games. One. That's it. I'm not finished. 9 playoff berths in 24 years. 2 playoff series victories, just as many as you have nicknames.
Okay, he is in the middle of a kind of, some semblance of a good point, just trashing New Orleans for being an incompetent organization, which, all power to him. Again, it's not a good organization, but I just, why is he calling them nicknames? That's literally what the franchise was called, man.
You've never been to a conference finals in the franchise's history. That means you've never been to an NBA Finals in the franchise history. In 24 years, only 5 teams have never been to an NBA Finals. The Clippers, the Timberwolves, the Hornets, the Grizzlies, and you. In that same span, conference finals, only the Hornets and you have never been to a conference finals. But you got the time to clap back at me. Well, if you're going to do that, at least tell America why. It's the only thing that can make you relevant.
The ego on this man, it's bigger than the moon. Brother, they're clowning on you because you said some just garbage things about Zion Williamson where you weren't respectful. Yeah, you had some good points, but those were sprinkled into just nonsense about how fat he is.
The joke was everybody in New Orleans that cooked. It could be everybody from a restaurant, a chef, to your grandmama. All right? Anybody that cooked knew about Zion Williamson.
That's why they clapped back at you. This wasn't for attention. They don't need attention. They're an NBA franchise, brother. They're worth billions of dollars. Okay, so I just looked it up because I was curious. So 1, the Pelicans owner is actually a woman. I'm sorry for misgendering. And 2, she's worth $8 billion. Stephen A., why do you think she gives a crap about you?
You and your social media department felt the need to come back at me and clap back at me because you want to make a statement. You want notoriety. You want publicity. You want to be noticed. Damn it, half the world forgets you have a basketball team. That's how bad y'all have been.
Not a single person that actually watches the NBA forgets that New Orleans has a basketball team. They're bad, but they're not forgettable. Maybe in between your incoherent ramblings, you forget that they have a team, but nobody else is.
Now you're on the come up because Joe Dumars a winner, and he's going to find a way to turn this damn thing around.
All right, so after praising Joe Dumars and then insulting him, now he's going back to praising him. And I just have to say, Joe Dumars, he's not a winner. He last won something in 2004. For reference, Cooper Flagg wasn't even alive then. Joe Dumars, he did this trade. He's not going to turn this franchise around, okay?
And Zion Williamson, a brother's rooting for you. This is not directed towards you. Trey Murphy, Sadiq Bey, none of y'all towards the players. I'm talking strictly to your social media department and their pathetic asses. You've never been to a conference finals in the franchise's history.
I guess that's why you brought up how bad of a franchise New Orleans has been. It's because whoever runs their Twitter account has, been a terrorist from inside the organization and has been sinking their team. I just also want to comment, New Orleans, yeah, part of the reason they're so bad is because they're not a good organization. They're a poverty franchise, but they haven't had a lot of talent, to be fair. I mean, Chris Paul, Anthony Davis, and Zion Williamson, that's an amazing, trio of, your most talented players of all time. But Chris Paul won it out pretty early. He was never the same after his knee injury, and I think it was 2010. And, yeah, that's 2 first ballot Hall of Famers, but they're not, top tier first ballot Hall of Famers. The amount of guys who can actually just single-handedly turn a franchise around in the totality of NBA history, it's maybe 20, 25 guys. The end of the line is KG or Dirk on that list. It's not a big list. And New Orleans is a young organization, so of course they're not going to have as much opportunity to get that, top of the line all-time talent. So, of course, they're, going to have a tough time winning, Again, they are a poverty franchise. They've made some bad mistakes. They should have reasonably won more with Chris Paul or Anthony Davis in those respective eras. They didn't. That's something to criticize, but it's not a shock that they haven't won anything with those guys.
Could you find a basketball reason to be relevant?
Right, they'll give you a basketball reason to complain to you after you just totally and unreasonably bash their star player. Makes sense.
Could you find a basketball reason to remind us why you should exist? Could you find a basketball reason to remind us why we should care?
I will say a lot of the stuff he's saying is genuinely funny because it's just kind of unhinged in a sense. Just questioning the whole reason why New Orleans should exist. Give us a reason, a basketball reason for why we shouldn't just nuke your franchise into the dirt.
Could you find a basketball reason to justify charging patrons in the city of New Orleans who you should be giving refunds to because of the product that y'all have put on the floor the last couple of years? Last 8 years, you've been in the playoffs twice. You've been bounced out in the first round each time. But you got an attitude with me and you want to troll me, feel free. Because I'm going to remind you again, I'm 58. I look pretty good. I feel even better. And I can shoot. But I don't get paid to do that. I get paid to do this. Stephen A. Smith, commentator on ESPN. Stephen A. Smith, radio host on Sirius XM, not just with a sports show, but a political show. Stephen A. Smith owning my own YouTube channel. Stephen A. Smith owning my own production
We do
company,
not care.
producing scripted and unscripted content and looking for young brothers and sisters to bring on board under my umbrella so we can create something special moving forward. That's what I'm doing. Little snot-nosed, skinny-ass black kid growing up poor in the streets of Hollis, Queens, New York City, has risen to this level. I am the American dream. Me and millions of others, but I'm one of them. You guys have been an American nightmare to basketball fans all over the place because y'all don't seem to know what the hell y'all doing, at least until Joe Dumars got there.
Does Joe Dumars have some dirt on Stephen A? Is that why the man just can't stop glazing him every single second he has the opportunity to?
And give some love to Willie Green, too, who I thought did a decent job for a few years.
No, he didn't. I think maybe, you forgot New Orleans existed while Willie Green was coaching them. That's why you think he did a decent job, because there's a reason Willie Green has not found work in the NBA after getting fired as a coach.
Trying to get clicks. But at what price? You wanted my attention. You got it. I got more. I'm just not going to waste our viewers' time by talking about a franchise struggling to be relevant.
That's why I spent 5 of the last 11 minutes stroking my own ego and the other 6 talking about New Orleans. I'm not going to waste my viewers' time or anything. But I did just waste 11 minutes of your time talking about this sorry organization.
Again, Joe Dumars is in the house. Times will get better. But your social media team, get a life. Please, pretty please. Please don't make me have to do this again. I really don't want to. There's a lot of ammunition here. It really, really is. Please, have a nice day.
Well, the fact that he had to get in some good old Joe Dumars glaze right at the end, one last time for old time's sake. And yeah, considering the fact that you had to repeat twice that they've only won 2 playoff series, makes me think that there's not a lot of ammunition in there, buddy. Now, aside from him being an idiot, as far as entertainment standpoint goes, this is top of the line Stephen A. Smith. He's turning back the clock with this one. We talk about LeBron James fighting father time all the time, but Stephen A. Smith, he's 58 years old. He's ascending to another level, okay? Now, let me be clear. I know this is what Stephen A. Smith wants. He's just like Skip Bayless, being that all he wants is attention. And everyone who engages with this type of content, you and I included, are giving him that attention. But I still think it's important to talk about this type of stuff because 1, it's funny, and 2, I still believe there is value in calling out clown behavior because it might deter others from doing it. And in an industry that desperately needs better sports analysts, that is very important. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like, commenting, and subscribing, and also checking out this last video where I talk about Jason Tatum's return to Boston and 4 additional takes I have about the NBA season. Have a great day, everybody.